There are moments in your life that nobody around you seems to understand. You'll mention them casually and watch people's eyes glaze over. A conversation that changed everything. A dream that predicted the future exactly. A knowing that arrived without thinking. A pattern so perfect it can't be random. The universe responding to your thoughts like it's listening. Carl Jung dedicated his life to documenting these experiences, and what he discovered was revolutionary. These aren't signs you're losing touch with reality. They're evidence you're finally touching reality as it actually is. Today I'll reveal the 5 specific experiences Jung identified that only manifest in spiritually awakened individuals. Experiences so precise, so undeniable, that once you recognize them, you'll understand exactly what's happening to your consciousness. And if you're having these experiences right now, you'll finally know why you feel so isolated. It's not because something's wrong with you. It's because you're perceiving dimensions of reality most people haven't accessed yet. Here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Spiritual awakening isn't just a belief system or philosophy you adopt. Jung found it activates specific psychological capacities that remain dormant in most human beings. These aren't spiritual concepts or religious ideas. They're measurable changes in how your consciousness processes reality. And once these capacities turn on, Jung discovered they don't turn back off. You can't unknow what you've known. You can't unsee what you've seen. You can't return to experiencing reality the way you did before these functions activated. The first experience will validate everything you've been questioning about yourself. 1. The universe responds to your internal state. Jung called this synchronicity, but what he meant goes far deeper than most people realize. It's not just noticing meaningful coincidences occasionally. It's reality itself becoming responsive to your consciousness in ways that defy every law of cause and effect. Here's what only awakened individuals experience. The external world starts mirroring your internal reality with impossible precision. You think of an old friend you haven't contacted in years, and within an hour they text you. Not because you're psychic, because reality has become permeable to consciousness in ways physics can't explain. You ask the universe a question in your mind, and a stranger at the coffee shop says the exact answer out loud in their phone conversation as you walk past. You need guidance on a decision, and a book falls off the shelf in a bookstore, opening to the precise paragraph that addresses your exact situation. Numbers follow you everywhere. 11:11, 3:33, 4:44. Not occasionally, but multiple times every single day, on clocks, receipts, license plates, page numbers. Jung experienced this intensely during his own awakening. He wrote, "Synchronicity reveals that the distinction between inner and outer, between mind and matter, is an illusion. They are one unified field responding to consciousness itself." But here's what he discovered that explains everything. Synchronicities don't happen to everyone equally. They intensify in direct proportion to your level of awakening. The more conscious you become, the more reality speaks back to you. One of Jung's patients, a former engineer who'd spent his life believing only in measurable facts, described what happened after his awakening. "I used to think in terms of probability and statistics. Now I live inside a conversation with existence itself. Yesterday I was struggling with whether to forgive my brother. That afternoon, 3 separate strangers mentioned forgiveness in unrelated contexts within 2 hours. A billboard about forgiveness appeared on my drive home. My daughter's homework assignment that night, write about forgiveness. This isn't coincidence, this is reality communicating. But here's the part that creates profound isolation. You cannot demonstrate this to anyone. Synchronicities aren't performances you can produce on demand. They're private dialogues between your consciousness and the fabric of reality. When you try explaining that the universe is literally responding to your thoughts, people think you're developing schizophrenia. They'll tell you it's confirmation bias, pattern recognition gone haywire, your brain making connections that don't exist, and you can't prove them wrong because Jung's synchronicities only happen when you're not trying to make them happen. The moment you attempt to force them for evidence, they stop. They require a specific quality of consciousness, authentic presence, without agenda. Jung was explicit about why this isolates awakened people. To those who have eyes to see, the world is alive and responsive. To those who do not, it appears dead and random, and there is no way to give eyes to those who cannot yet see. Synchronicities become your secret language with existence, profound beyond words and completely incommunicable. 2. You can hold opposites without breaking. This is the experience that fundamentally restructures your mind. Jung called it the transcendent function, and it's not what New Age spirituality thinks it means. It's not about transcending the material world or rising above human experience. It's about developing a psychological capacity that most human beings never access, the ability to hold contradictory truths simultaneously without your mind collapsing. Here's what actually happens when this activates. You stop experiencing reality through either-or thinking and start experiencing it as both. You can feel devastating grief and profound gratitude in the same moment, not alternating between them, but genuinely experiencing both simultaneously. You can see someone as deeply flawed and absolutely perfect at the same time, without contradiction. You can understand that life is completely meaningless and infinitely meaningful in the same breath, and both are entirely true. Jung described this as the reconciliation of opposites produces a third thing, something new that contains both polarities while being neither. Let me make this concrete. Before awakening, you're forced to choose. Is this person good or bad? Is this situation positive or negative? Am I succeeding or failing? After the transcendent function activates, you exist in a completely different relationship with reality. You're simultaneously both, all, and the contradiction doesn't create confusion, it creates expansion. A patient described the moment it happened. My father died, and something impossible occurred inside me. I felt the worst pain imaginable and the deepest peace I've ever known, at exactly the same time, not one after the other, not balanced against each other, both, fully, simultaneously. My mind didn't split from the paradox. It grew large enough to contain it. This is why awakened people often confuse others. You can be completely spiritual while being totally practical, fully detached while deeply engaged, absolutely serious while genuinely playful. To linear thinkers, you seem inconsistent, contradictory, even dishonest. They can't grasp that you're not confused, you're comprehensive. But here's what makes this experience so challenging. Once the transcendent function activates, you become psychologically unemployable by any system that requires absolute positions. Political movements need you to pick a side. You see truth and delusion in both. Religions want total belief. You experience the sacred everywhere and nowhere. Relationships often demand you choose their reality over yours. You can hold both without betraying either. Jung called this the burden of consciousness. You're too aware of complexity for simple narratives, too conscious of paradox for rigid ideologies. You can't join tribes anymore because you see that every tribe contains both wisdom and shadow. You can't be recruited to causes because you understand that every position holds partial truth. This creates a specific kind of loneliness. You're present with everyone, but belong fully to no one. You can see all perspectives, but can't claim absolute allegiance to any. 3. Your dreams stop being random. Everyone dreams, but Jung discovered that in awakened individuals, dreaming undergoes a complete transformation. Dreams stop being subconscious processing or wish fulfillment and become something entirely different. Direct communication from what Jung called the self, your deepest wisdom speaking in the only language it knows. Here's what changes specifically. Your dreams become conscious experiences while you're still asleep. Not lucid dreaming where you control the content. Something far stranger. You're fully aware inside the dream while simultaneously being the dream and witnessing the dream. You receive teachings that you remember word for word when you wake up. Entire conversations with beings who are more real than people you know in waking life. One of Jung's patients, a woman who'd never had spiritual experiences, described what started happening. My dreams changed overnight. I wasn't just dreaming anymore. I was being taught. I'd meet figures who would explain concepts I'd never encountered, using words I'd never heard. I'd wake up and write pages of wisdom I didn't consciously know. One being told me, "You're not dreaming, you're remembering." And somehow I knew exactly what that meant. But here's what only awakened people experience that sounds absolutely insane to everyone else. Prophetic dreams that manifest exactly. You dream of a conversation with your sister about a specific topic in a specific location, and 3 days later, it happens verbatim. Same words, same place, same outcome. You dream of meeting someone you've never seen, and 2 weeks later, they walk into your life looking exactly as they appeared in the dream. You dream of a crisis, and the crisis happens exactly as shown. Jung documented this extensively in his own life. He dreamed of World War I before it started, seeing blood covering Europe. He dreamed of specific patients before they contacted him. But here's what makes this most isolating. These aren't metaphorical dreams you interpret. They're literal transmissions of future events, and you cannot explain this to anyone without sounding delusional. Even more profound are what Jung called big dreams. Dreams so powerful, they change your entire life in one night. These aren't dreams you analyze, they're initiatory experiences. You don't wake up having had a dream, you wake up having been transformed. You've died in the dream and come back different. You've met something that showed you the nature of reality, and you can never unsee it. You've been somewhere that exists beyond physical space, and the memory is more vivid than yesterday. Jung identified specific markers of these awakening dreams: encounters with luminous figures who teach without speaking, journeys through impossible landscapes that feel like coming home, death so real you wake up convinced you actually died, symbols that carry such weight that seeing them restructures your understanding of existence. But you cannot share these. The dreams carry what Jung called the numinous, the quality of the sacred, the holy. And this quality cannot be transmitted through description. You try telling someone about the dream where you met your higher self, or the one where you understood the universe's purpose, or the one where you died and discovered what comes after, and you watch their face, the polite nodding, the subtle disconnection. They think you're either embellishing or confused. They don't understand that you're not interpreting symbols. You're reporting direct experience of realities that are more real than this one. Before we continue to the final 2 experiences that fundamentally restructure your identity and purpose, subscribe and hit the notification bell. These insights take years to integrate, and this channel exists to support your journey. Share in the comments which of these 3 experiences has been most intense for you. Your validation might help someone else trust what they're experiencing. Now, if you're experiencing these phenomena, reality responding to your internal state, holding paradox without breaking, dreams that are transmissions rather than random images, you're not imagining things, you're perceiving things. And Jung spent his entire career proving there's a massive difference. 4. Your sense of self completely reorganizes. This is Jung's most radical discovery, and modern spirituality gets it completely wrong. Awakening doesn't destroy your ego or eliminate your personality. It does something far stranger. It reveals that you are multiple centers of consciousness operating simultaneously. Jung called this the ego-self axis, the relationship between your everyday identity and your deepest essence. And in awakened individuals, this axis undergoes total restructuring. Here's what actually happens. You start experiencing yourself as several layers of awareness at the same time. There's the you, navigating daily life, working, talking, making decisions. But there's also a vast, impersonal awareness watching your life unfold like a movie. And you're both, fully, simultaneously. Jung wrote, "The self is not the ego. The ego is a small boat on the ocean of the self. In awakening, you discover you're both the boat and the ocean." Let me be specific about what only awakened people experience. You're in a conversation, fully engaged in what you're saying, while simultaneously observing yourself from outside, seeing your patterns, your reactions, your unconscious motivations, and you can choose whether to continue or change course mid-sentence. You watch yourself getting upset about something and simultaneously know it doesn't actually matter from the larger perspective, but you don't suppress the upset. You hold both truths. You feel ancient and timeless in one moment and brand new like a child in the next, not alternating between them, but experiencing both simultaneously. A patient described it to Jung this way: "I'm living on multiple channels at once. Channel 1, I'm John, 42, stressed about money, arguing with my wife. Channel 2, I'm eternal consciousness, having a temporary human experience called John, and this argument is a beautiful dance of two souls learning. Both channels are completely real. I'm not choosing between them. I'm being both." This creates experiences that sound like psychosis to anyone who hasn't undergone this shift. You feel like you've lived 1,000 lifetimes and are also being born fresh in every moment. You know yourself as both utterly insignificant and cosmically important. You experience what Jung called the relativization of the ego. Your personal self becomes just one of many possible expressions of consciousness you could be. But here's the challenge that creates profound isolation. The ego doesn't accept this demotion gracefully. It fights back with what Jung called inflation, moments where it tries to claim awakening as its own achievement. "I'm enlightened, I'm special, I'm beyond normal consciousness." And the universe responds with immediate humbling. You'll experience cosmic consciousness on Tuesday and forget where you parked on Wednesday. You'll channel profound wisdom and then say something embarrassingly stupid. You'll feel enlightened and then completely lose your temper. This isn't failure. Jung said this is the dance. The awakened life isn't constant bliss or permanent enlightenment. It's ongoing negotiation between your human self and your infinite nature. You become comfortable being both extraordinary and completely ordinary, special and insignificant, knowing and confused, all at once, all the time. This is why awakened people seem contradictory, deeply humble yet genuinely confident, powerful yet surrendered, certain yet always learning. They're not pretending. They're living from multiple levels of identity simultaneously, each true at its own level. 5. You recognize you're living a story that's older than you. This is Jung's most misunderstood discovery. Living mythologically doesn't mean thinking your life is a fairy tale. It means becoming conscious that your individual story is simultaneously a universal story that's been told through humans for thousands of years. You wake up to the fact that you're not just you. You're also an expression of patterns Jung called archetypes, ancient forces that have been shaping human experience since consciousness emerged. Here's what this actually feels like. You're going through a divorce, and you suddenly recognize you're not just ending a marriage, you're experiencing the archetypal pattern of death and rebirth that every hero's journey requires. Your mother isn't just your mother. She's carrying the great mother archetype, which includes both nurturing and devouring aspects that have appeared in every culture's mythology. Your career crisis isn't just about your job. It's the archetypal call to adventure, the moment when the old self must die for the new self to emerge. Jung wrote, "The individual life is simultaneously personal and archetypal. We are living our unique story and humanity's eternal story at the same time." One of Jung's patients described the moment this became conscious. I was arguing with my husband about finances, and mid-argument I suddenly saw we weren't John and Sarah fighting about money. We were embodying the eternal tension between security and freedom, structure and flow, masculine and feminine principles. The argument was personal, but it was also cosmic. We were playing out a pattern that couples have enacted for millennia. I was both Sarah, angry about the checking account, and every woman who's ever needed her partner to understand. Both were completely real. This archetypal awareness extends to recognizing when specific patterns are activating through you. The warrior rises when you face injustice. The healer emerges when someone's in pain. The sage appears when wisdom needs to be spoken. These aren't roles you're playing. They're forces using you as their instrument. But here's what's most profound. You start recognizing other people's archetypal configurations too. You see who's possessed by the victim pattern, who's channeling the tyrant, who's embodying the lover, who's trapped in the eternal child. And you understand that most human conflict isn't personal. It's archetypal patterns colliding through people who aren't conscious they're being used by these forces. This gives you profound compassion. People aren't choosing to be difficult. They're unconsciously enacting scripts that are older than civilization. Jung discovered that awakened individuals eventually have what he called archetypal dreams, direct encounters with these primordial forces. You don't dream about a wise old man. You meet the wise old man archetype itself. You don't dream about your mother. You encounter the Great Mother. These beings are more real than dream figures. They're autonomous psychological forces that exist beyond your personal psyche. The mythological life also means discovering your personal myth, the unique story your soul came here to live, not your ego's ambition, not society's expectations, the deep pattern encoded in your psyche from before birth. And here's the strangest part. Once you become conscious of your myth, you start sensing what's coming before it arrives. Not because you're psychic, but because you recognize the pattern unfolding. You know the dark night is approaching before the crisis hits. You feel the call to transformation before the opportunity appears. You recognize the test before it manifests. Jung called this living prophetically, not predicting the future, but being conscious of the mythological pattern you're inside while it's happening. The deeper truth. Jung discovered these 5 experiences aren't random spiritual phenomena. Jung saw them as evidence of humanity's evolutionary leap. Each awakened individual experiencing these realities is participating in what he called the next stage of consciousness. Think about what these experiences actually reveal. Reality, responding to consciousness, proves that mind and matter aren't separate. Holding paradox shows thinking is evolving beyond binary logic. Prophetic dreams suggest time isn't linear. Multiple centers of self prove consciousness isn't confined to personality. Archetypal awareness reveals individual lives are expressions of universal patterns. Jung recognized these not as mystical experiences, but as psychological capacities that have been dormant in humans, waiting for the right conditions to activate. And those conditions? The very crisis, chaos, and meaninglessness of modern existence. The breakdown isn't the problem, it's the catalyst. He wrote, "The spiritual crisis of our time forces certain individuals to develop these capacities not because they seek them, but because consciousness itself is evolving, and these are the symptoms of its evolution. This is why you can't go back once these experiences begin. You can't unexperience reality speaking back to you. You can't return to either or thinking once the transcendent function activates. You can't have random dreams once you've received direct transmission. You can't live only as ego once the self awakens. You can't see life as random once you've recognized the mythological patterns." Jung called this the irreversibility of consciousness. Each awakening experience restructures your psychology permanently. You're not the same person anymore. Literally, Your consciousness has evolved beyond the version you used to be. But here's what creates the deepest isolation. You're living in a different reality than most people around you. Not a better reality, a more comprehensive one. You see everything they see, plus dimensions they can't access yet. You're like someone with hearing in a world where most people are deaf. You can't prove sound exists to those who can't hear it. You can only live with the music and seem strange to those who live in silence. Yet Jung's most important insight was this: these experiences aren't meant to separate you from humanity, but to serve it. Each person who develops these capacities becomes what he called a point of consciousness for the collective, not through teaching or preaching, through simply being. Your existence as someone experiencing these realities makes them more accessible to others. You're creating pathways in consciousness that others will eventually walk. Jung believed we're in a race, consciousness versus catastrophe. Either enough people awaken to these experiences to shift humanity's trajectory, or we remain trapped in unconscious patterns that lead to destruction. Each person experiencing synchronistic reality, transcendent thinking, prophetic dreaming, ego self-integration, and mythological living is adding to what Jung called the sum of consciousness available to humanity. You're not having these experiences for yourself alone. You're having them for everyone who can't yet. You're pioneering psychological territories that will one day be common ground. What feels like isolation is actually profound service. What seems like personal awakening is collective evolution happening through you. If you're experiencing these 5 phenomena, if reality responds to you, if you hold paradox naturally, if your dreams are transmissions, if you live as multiple centers of awareness, if you recognize the myths living through you, you're not alone. You're part of humanity's most important transformation. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to join thousands who understand these experiences aren't madness, they're metamorphosis. Share in the comments which of these 5 you're experiencing most intensely right now. Your courage in naming these realities helps others trust their own evolution. Remember Jung's words: there is no coming to consciousness without pain, but people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. You've stopped avoiding. You're facing what most people can't. Trust what you're experiencing. It's not insanity, it's initiation into the next level of human consciousness. To explore Jung's complete map of spiritual awakening, click the video on your screen now.